Chapter 10: Marketing Organization, Implementation and Control by Joshua Chavez, Genova Michaela, and Alejandra Delgado. Introduction. As companies evolve from purely domestic entities to multinationals, their organizational structure and control system must change to reflect new strategies. With growth comes diversity in terms of products and services, geographic markets, and personnel, leading to a set of challenges for the company. Three critical issues are basic to addressing these challenges. The number one is the type of organization that provides the best framework for operational effectiveness. The second one, the optimal approach to implementing corporate strategy, globally, regionally, and locally. And the last one is the type and degree of control to be exercised from headquarters to maximize the total effort. Now let's talk about organizational designs. The basic configuration of international organizations correspond to those of purely domestic ones. The greater the degree of internationalization, the more complex the structures can become. The types of structures that companies use to manage foreign activities can be divided into three categories based on the degree of internationalization. Number one is little or no formal organizational recognition of international activities of the firm. This category ranges from domestic operations handling an occasional international transaction on ad hoc basis to separate export departments. The second one, international division. Firms in this category recognize the ever-growing importance of international involvement. And the last one is the global organizations. This can be structured by product, area, function, process, or customer. The little or no formal organization. In the very early stage of international involvement, domestic operations assume responsibility for international marketing activities. The share of international operation in the sales and profits of the corporation is initially so minor that no organizational adjustment takes place. As demand from the international marketplace grows and interest within the firm expands, the organizational structure will reflect it, and an export department appears as a separate entity. This may be an outside export management company, that is, an independent company that becomes the factor export department of the firm. This is an indirect approach to international involvement in that very little experience is accumulated within the firm itself. Alternatively, a firm may establish its own export department, hiring a few seasoned individuals to take full responsibility for international activities. Organizationally, the department may be a sub-department of marketing or may have equal ranking with the various functional departments. The international division, well, the international division centralizes in one entity, with or without separate incorporation, all of the responsibility for international activities. The approach aims to eliminate a possible bias against international operations that may exist if domestic divisions are allowed to independently serve international customers. In some cases, international markets have been found to be treated as secondary to domestic markets. The international division concentrates international expertise, information flows concerning foreign market opportunities, and authority over international activities. In this graphic, we can see the international division structure, and like I said, this is in a second plane. The global organizational structures. These are structures have grown of the competitive necessity. In many industries, competition is on a global basis, with the result that companies must have a high degree of reactive capability. Six basic types of global structures are available. The number one is the global product structure, in which product divisions are responsible for all manufacturing and marketing worldwide. The second one is the global area structure, in which geographic divisions are responsible for all manufacturing and marketing in their respective areas. The third is global functional structure, in which the functional areas, such as production, marketing, finance, and personnel, are responsible for the worldwide operations of their own functional areas. 4. Global customer structure, in which operations are structured based on distinct worldwide customer groups. 5. Mixed or hybrid structure, which may combine the other alternatives. And the last one, matrix structures, in which operations have reporting responsibility to more than one group, typically product, area, or functions.
So the second part of the presentation is about implementation. Between each country there is a different level of coordination, but it must be found a balance between a center and country of organization. Here you can see the table of levels of organization, which the level 5 is the highest level of coordination, which called center control. And there is no national structures, and the level 0 is the lowest, and it's a national autonomy, where is no coordination between decentralized units, which may even compete in export markets. So the common ones are between 1 and 4, and the 0 and 5, they are like extremes. And now we will take a proper look what exactly means like centralized, decentralized, and everything. So let's see another slide, which called decision making. And headquarters with their subsidiaries, they can make a decision to be decentralization, which means that subsidiaries are granted a high degree of autonomy and controls are relatively loose and simple. The flows between headquarters and subsidiaries are mainly financial, and each subsidiary operates as a profit center. So it means basically they can make their own decisions. The subsidiaries, they are not so dependent on the headquarters, and different extreme is centralization, where our controls are really tight and strategic decision making is always concentrated at the headquarters. But normally the firms are not even decentralized, not even centralized. It's something between, which we can call coordinated decentralization. And it basically means that some decision, for example the biggest decision, which are about maybe finance or research and development, which is really important, those decisions are made centralized by headquarters. But some another decision, about promotion, for example, they are made in a local basis, because the local subsidiaries understand more their local market, so it's decentralized and made by each subsidiary. Okay, So basically, just to sum it up quickly, decentralization, they can make their own decision. They are not so they don't depend so much on the headquarters. And centralization, it means they are dependent. The controls are really tight, and they don't make their own decision. The subsidiaries. So here we can see the factors which affect structure and decision making. So they are determined by 4 factors. It's by the degree of involvement in international operations, the businesses in which the firm is engaged, the size and importance of the markets, and the human resource capability of the firm. So now we can see some examples. So with the low degrees of involvement by the parent company, subsidiaries can enjoy high degrees of autonomy as long as they meet their profit targets. So it means, with the low degrees, they can make their own decision, but they have to make a profit, like the targets which were made. Also, the firm's country of origin and the political history is an important factor which affecting structure and decision making. For example, Nestle has just 3 to 4% of sales in their domestic Swiss market and has traditionally a highly decentralized organization, because like all another countries where they sell Nestle, which are like all around the world, they have a lot of decentralized policy and they can make their own decision. The next one is a type and variety of products. And companies that market consumer products typically have product organization with high degrees of decentralization, allowing for maximal local flexibility. And the last one, the really important one, is also human factor, which in subsidiaries, they should have a component manager, which will solve the problems by their own, not always like communication with headquarters is possible, and like the component manager has to make their own decision and be prepared to basically make the decision. And for that they must understand the culture and the long-term objectives very well. And sometimes also they have to think about all the company. Maybe for them, for their local market, like something else will be really good and has sales, but like for all the company, all the concept is not good. So they have to decide like in all term of the company, not just by their local market. Okay, so the network global organization, like no international structure is perfect, and like little change in a structure can change a lot in a general. So many of the most successful global companies have adopted an organizational approach that provides clear global strategic direction along with the flexibility to adapt to local opportunities and requirements. So what companies have to adapt to be successful? The development and communication of a clear corporate vision. Like for example, vision of Coca-Cola is to refresh the world, and all the subsidiaries, all the companies, Coca-Cola has to go along with this vision. Also, the effective management of a human resource has to go with the corporate goals, as I already said in a previous slide. And the last is the integration of individual thinking. This means that especially the managers have to think individually, as I already said, and those are some goals how to make also the company successful, but there is more definition for this. Like, for example, IBM established 3 values for the 21st century to be successful, and it's a dedication to every client's success, innovation that matters for the company and also for all the world, and trust and personal responsibility in all relationships. So we can find like more definitions. It's just some of them. Okay, the next we will see like more properly this term, the Network Global Organization, which I was talking about. We can define it as cross-border task forces and establishment of center of excellence, which are connected together by informal networks and the demands of the task rather than a formal organization structure. And the network organization priorities its soft structure of relationships, network, teams, groups, and communities rather than reporting lines. So in the picture on the right side, you can see the decentralized model and the network global model of subsidiaries. So you can see that the network global is more connected by informal networks. It has a soft structure, and they are more closer to cooperate in tasks. For example, there is a most significant use of electronic companies in this network global organization, and like, for example, it can be Philips. So now I will talk about promoting global internal cooperation. So in today's environment, it's really important to move intellectual capital within the organization. Like, it means transmit ideas and train the manager. Like the top manager has to be really educated. They have several programs, like of the most international, like biggest companies, like all the managers has long programs to be learn how to make the decision, how to manage such a big company. And also the normal thing is that they rotate between several subsidiaries to learn even more. With this, we have a new term to learn, which is also really important. It can appear in a question, so pay attention. This is a boundarylessness, and it means that people can act without regards to status or functional loyalty and can look for better ideas from anywhere. That means that, for example, the normal employee, let's say from manufacture, can see different aspects which managers don't see. And also they can like save a lot of money, make better things with that. And like the managers should listen those people which are not just like from the direct of company, like not the direction or the managers, but like really normally employees, which really matters their opinion. Then international teams or councils can also help a lot. Like the managers from different countries may develop some new strategies, but sometimes like it's useful more to use the local managers. It really depends on the situation. And on a long-term basis, some companies use councils to share their best practice. It's really good to make this. It basically means that the best option is when they meet face-to-face, like the members of other departments, and discuss their best practice, how they make it faster, how they make it cheaper. And when you put those best practice together, you will find probably the optional way how to do the processes in the films. With this is connected communication, which is really important to develop the relationships. It must be two-way communication between headquarters and subsidiaries, and it can be through newsletters or regular periodic personal meetings. But with new technologies, it's more possible to do, for example, audio podcast for some seminars and conferences, also live webcast, which is especially important now in these days. Like a lot of people works like home office, so they really use this live webcast, and also intranets of the company, which works just in like several companies where they have it, and they can all around the world see the same, easy communicate between different countries, different subsidiaries with the headquarters. And in this, we should take into account the different time zones between each country. So in some films, like international films, it's, for example, the normal that they make like three times a day, like the same like conference, and like there is a discuss the same things, but it's 3 times a day because of the different time zones. Like in each country, they are possible to enter this. And the further adjustment in organizational approaches is required to face the new challenges, which can be emerging markets. For example, if there is a new market, they can maybe ignore the taxes, ignore the laws, make counterfeited products. So the big company products. So the big companies should be like prepare for that. Like the example can be like, for example, the brand Adidas, it has a lot of, I would say, like Chinese counterfeited products. Also the global accounts, like the accounting people, they must be prepared to learn new accounting laws. Also the digitalization of business, it's a new challenge for the businesses. The companies must adapt to new technologies. And also cybersecurity, because in computers, basically they have all things, and they have to protect it really well to don't have any cybernetic attack. And the last thing I will talk about is the role of country organization. They should be treated as a source of supply as much as they are considered as source of demand. So in this picture, we can see that the different roles are based on competence of local organization and strategic importance on local market. So firstly, we will see the strategic leader, which has a high strategic importance on a local market and high competence of local organization. So the country organization serves as a partner of headquarters in developing and implementing strategy. For example, some cars, such can be like Nissan set cars, have been designed for the US market primarily, or Mercedes-Benz for Germany, but they are like basically sold everywhere in the world. The next one is contributor, which we can see has a low strategic importance of local market, but high competence of a local organization. And country organization and the source of country organization are the source of a new product, which means like in different countries they specialize for something else on the brand. It depends on geography. So for example, in one country for the automobile products, they can make wheels. In different country they can make the windows, etc. The next one is an implementer, which has a low strategic importance on the local market and a low competence, which has a presence in this market is typically through a sales organization, basically. And the last one is a black hole, which has a low competence of local organization but high strategic importance of local market. And it can be because it has read the market incorrectly. For example, Philips focused too much to sell less expensive items in US market, but they should focus more on the upmarket products in the different countries. They can be more successful in this way, but they realize it kind of late. And also because of the government may restrict its activities. One example is the Citibank. It was restricted in China. And to sum it up quickly, that country organization should have enough operating independence and motivation for country managers, and good idea should come from any country, any organization, any employee. They should listen, the headquarters should listen their subsidiaries, their country organization.
I would like to start by defining what control is. Control is the process of verifying the performance of different areas of a firm. So to continue with this, we need a set of instruments and processes that influence the behavior and performance of organization members to make the goals come true. As we are going to see later, these instruments or processes have to be defined correctly and not to wait that they appear as a miracle. The controls focus on actions to verify and correct the activities that differ from the plans of the organization. They are designed to reduce uncertainty, increase predictability, and ensure that behaviors originated in separate parts of the organization are compatible in the support of common organizational goals, despite physical and temporal distance. Firms sometimes decide to wait that the controls appear by themselves, but they find that eventually that result in problems in areas of product line performance, program coordination, and strategic planning. Sometimes it's important to consider it doesn't matter the system. It is important in today's competitive environment to have benchmarking. Benchmarking releases organizational learning and help to share the best practice through the corporate system to avoid cost of make new solutions that have already been discovered. There are three important features that are necessary to sharing best practice. First, there needs to be a device for organizational memory. For example, in some companies, usually saved information in a library or in some online platforms. Second, best practice must be updated and adjusted to new situations. It means that if a firm solves a problem with a good strategy, they can adjust that strategy and use it in another situation that may arise. And finally, best practice must be legitimized. We can interpret this as sharing knowledge across units can be highly valued within the organization. In the design of control system, a major decision concerns the object of a control. Two major objects are typically identified: output and behavior. Output controls consist of balance sheets, sales data, production data, product line growth, or a performance review of personnel. Behavioral controls require the exertion of influence over behavior after, or ideally before, it leads to action. Technical problems. To implement those measures, the corporate officials have to decide between the instruments of control. So in general, we have two alternatives that are bureaucratic control or cultural control. The bureaucratic controls consist of a limited and explicit set of regulations and rules that outline desired levels of performance. They are made up of three elements. 1. An international budget and planning system. 2. The functional reporting system. And 3. Policy manuals used to direct functional. The cultural controls are much less formal, and they are the result of shared beliefs and expectations among the members of an organization. Cultural controls require an extensive socialization process, and informal, personal interaction is central to the process. The primary instruments are the careful selection and training of corporate personnel and the institution of self-control. Usually, firms use cultural controls when they offer lifetime or long-term employment. As a curious fact, in many countries, they give less emphasis on formal controls, except USA, because those are viewed as rigid and too quantitatively, so they prefer focus in values and culture, and evaluations are based on the extent to which an individual or entity fits in.